Hi everyone, my name is Patti. I'm the CSO of Panome Bio, and I'm here today to do ChatGJP. The question is untargeted metabolomics better than targeted metabolomics? It's a little bit of a loaded question. It really depends upon the context of your experiment. When you're performing untargeted metabolomics, that can be a very solid experimental design for certain types of questions that you may be asking in your laboratory. In contrast, there are other situations where targeted metabolomics is more appropriate. So let me just briefly provide a little context for when untargeted metabolomics might be better compared to targeted metabolomics. Untargeted metabolomics is really a discovery kind of analysis. So when you're doing untargeted metabolomics, you're profiling as many small molecules as you can from a biological specimen. And that works really well if you don't know exactly what it is that you're trying to investigate. So we like to refer to that as hypothesis generating, meaning that we hope that by measuring a lot of molecules that we'll observe some patterns that will motivate a hypothesis. The analogy that I've heard before, I didn't make this up, but it's a nice analogy. It's a little bit of a joke or a metaphor. And there is a police officer or a citizen who's in a street and he's looking for his keys. And he's looking for his keys under a lamppost, and a cop comes by, and the cop says, sir, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm looking for my keys. And the officer says, did you lose your keys around here? And he says, no, I lost my keys in the park. And the officer says, well, why are you looking for your keys here? And he says, well, this is where the lamp is. I can see from the lamppost. The park is dark. I can't see anything in there. And so that's kind of, if you're doing untargeted metabolomics, you're not limiting yourself to just looking under the lamppost for your key, but it allows you to look much more broadly. If you're looking at a bunch of molecules, even if you're looking at them really well, if that's not where your source of interesting biology is, you'll never be able to interpret them in the context of your question. In contrast, targeted metabolomics can be better if you do have a very specific hypothesis and you know what it is you're asking. So if you want to know specifically, does this metabolite go up on this particular condition or with this drug, or does this drug block this metabolic reaction, and you only care about those two metabolites, then in that case, it really would be better to do a targeted experiment because you know exactly what it is you're looking for. The last point that I'll make is that when you do untargeted metabolomics, it's really important to recognize that untargeted, one of my favorite phrases, is untargeted does not mean unplanned. And what I mean by that is that sometimes people think that since it's a discovery and you're just going to run a bunch of samples and generate a bunch of data, that you don't really have to think about what it is you're doing. You just unload the -80, run all your samples, and generate a bunch of data, and something exciting will pop out of it. But that's not true. If you're doing untargeted metabolomics, you really want to spend a lot of time deliberating on the front end of the experiment to make sure that you've designed the experiment, that the sample groups are right, that you're doing the right comparisons, applying the right statistical tests. You want to make sure that you've got all of that planned on the front end, and that will result in hopefully in the best outcome for the experiment.